episode of Legal Talks. I'm Jess Washington, COO of the Dallas Weekly, and I'm here back again with attorney Bridgette Williams of BLW Legal Group. Bridgette, thank you again for joining us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, you know me, I like to get right into it. One of the most recent topics that's been on the headlines lately, and I just want to point out that at the same time this was actually going on, a lot of people were talking about Miss Nia and the coach from the Celtics, the Boston Celtics coach, Nia Long, and all of that. So that was a distracting moment for Black culture, I feel. So that was at the same time, what we're about to cover today was going on. So let's just get right into it. A recent court filing has revealed text showing that football legend, if you will, Brett Farve, was continuing to press Mississippi state officials. He was pressing them, for funding, even after being told by then Governor Phil Bryant misuse of state funds could be illegal, basically saying stop hitting me up about this. According to ESPN, Brett Farve also reportedly pushed for help in building an indoor football facility to assist with the Golden Eagles recruiting. He was also seeking funds for Southern Miss Volleyball Arena, which I will also point out that his daughter plays for Southern Miss volleyball team. One text that showed that Governor Bryant explicitly mentioned some of those funds came from a federal program. The acronym is TANF, which stands for Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. And that improper use of these funds that are supposed to be for families is illegal. He made that explicitly clear. They found a communication in 2017 with Brett Farve inquiring if he was to be paid, is there any way that the media can find out? Basically, he was showing in this text that he was well aware that it was illegal, but he wanted to make sure that his ASS was covered. As of today, Brett Farve has already repaid the state of Mississippi $1.1 million, but the state is also seeking interest money of $228,000. So he's already been facing civil charges, and that's the reason why he had to do the repayment. But in my opinion, and this is just my not legal expert opinion, this just looks like plain old theft. It's like you knowingly and intentionally stole money, and then you turned around and did it on a federal level. So what I want to know from you, attorney Bridgette Williams, is there a possibility that Brett Farve could face charges, criminal charges, down the line?
You are 110% correct that this is straight up theft. That's exactly what it is. On the federal level, they call it embezzlement. Or misappropriation of funds, right? And so for federal charges, and those are generally what the charges are. And so it can very well be charged on a federal and state level for those particular charges. Will they do that? We have no idea. He's already made a confession that he has misappropriated those funds, right? And so the only thing that's left to do now is to move forward with pressing charges against him. And so that is up to the district attorney's office and then also the attorney general. And so they make that decision on if that is something they're going to move forward with. Now, he has already started back payment plan with or paying the money of the civil level. So if he was to be charged in a criminal case with the federal government or with the federal courts, then he wouldn't have to double pay it back, right? They can either put him in prison up to 10 years or fine him, right, up to $10,000. And so in addition to the repayment. So the important part is getting the money back. And so he's already doing that. So generally in most theft cases, at any time when the funds are misused in any way, the important part really is getting the money back. The person should, generally be punished in some way. But the point that we're looking to get is how we get this money back so it can go to the appropriate places. And so that's what's happening in the civil arena. And if he were to be charged on a criminal level for embezzlement or misappropriation of funds, then he would be looking more so at a prison sentence or a fine.
Do you have any idea what that fine could possibly look like?
Generally, the fine should not exceed over $10,000 at that federal level if the amount is over $1,000. But again, like I said, that's just on top of getting the money back. So the repayment is what is there. So if you were given $1 million, you had to pay that money back plus whatever the fine is.
Gotcha. I mean, we all know that Brett Farve is not hurting for money, though, so yeah, I guess like I understand that he's doing everything at this point, especially since he's exposed, I guess, the right thing and he's going in the right direction. And I'm sure to also try to curb any,
media press or bad press.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, it's still, it's just for me awful. Have we seen any other cases, or can you mention any other cases where we've seen extortion like this?
I mean, it happens all the time, honestly, and it's a sad thing to say that it does. But people apply for federal funding for different projects that can affect less fortunate individuals or kids or people who have been released from prison, just various types of programs. And those people misappropriate the funds all the time. It happens very frequently. I mean, you can even think to, let's talk about the most recent PPP, right? There is so many people. There's so many people who received that federal money in order to revitalize their business or keep their business afloat, right? And some of those individuals didn't even have a business, right? Or created the business under false pretenses. It's the same exact concept, misuse of federal funding. So it's the exact same concept.
I do want to point out, though, I do remember in the news the roundups that were happening with people just getting arrested, for the PPP extortion or fraud, if you will. And so, I mean, people were, getting arrested left and right, so guys, do not do it on the next roundup. On the next wave. Don't. They always found out. And I also want to point out too, just before we go, it's just like, it's like, it just makes me think anything on a federal level is like they always eventually find out, because one of the texts that I had mentioned in our Brett Farve review was as far back as 2017. So it was almost like they have a tendency, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they sit on it until they have everything airtight. And then they're like, that's how I mean, it just seems like that. I mean, I feel like when I'm looking at like the Trump case, it's the same thing. They don't speak a word of it until they make sure they have everything lined up.
The thing is, even like with those text messages, we could talk about that. Even in state court, when someone is charged with, let's say is intoxicated assault or something, else that may not necessarily deal with this. It could be a theft case or anything like that. They can subpoena your text messages. So that information, is not closed, all the way down. Those things can be subpoenaed and can get in their hands. So that's not something that is just private information. You don't write down anything, and this is my clients are very much informed of this. You write down nothing unless you are confident and okay with that being shown in court. So nothing goes in writing whatsoever, because anything that's in writing, even when you put things, let's say, on your personal social media page, right? And people are like, oh, I put it on my social media page. It's a private page. Darling, that don't mean anything. Those things can still be, again, subpoenaed, and they can be provided in federal court or in state court.
Well, here we go. Let's see what happens. I guess, like you said, all we can do is just sit and wait. Like, we know what's out there, but like you said, it's up to the district attorney really to make the next move.
That's correct.
Now, I also just, my last note of this is that Brett Farve is from Mississippi. The same state that he is frauding is his hometown. So I don't know if that plays in his favor or plays against him, but as I said before, we will all sit back and see. So
yes,
Bridgette,
we'll watch it closely.
Yes, absolutely. Bridgette, I appreciate your time as always. Thank you again for joining us on Legal Talk. Can you please tell the people how they can find you?
Yes, definitely. So I can be reached at BLW Legal Group. I handle criminal defense and also personal injury, which includes car wreck cases, slip and falls, and other injury matters.
Absolutely. She'll get you taken care of, guys. Hit her up. Bridgette, thank you so much again. And we will see you next week.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.